Across the spectrum of global conflict, from ancient steel to the newest digital and hypersonic arsenals, one class of armament remains the absolute existential apex. It is the single most terrifying force humanity has ever unlocked. A weapon so powerful, it warps history, defines geopolitics, and holds the literal power of global annihilation. We're talking about the atom and the bomb born from its nucleus. For 80 years, it has been the shadow hanging over civilization, a constant, quiet threat. Tonight, we trace that shadow from the laboratory breakthrough to the brink of nuclear winter. But before we begin, ask yourself, if you could hold the power of the sun in your hands, knowing its potential for both destruction and energy, would you use it? But first, a quick word from our hypothetical sponsor, Momentum Energy Drink, because you have a lot of things to start. Are you tired of feeling the constant weight of unfulfilled potential? Momentum gives you 90 seconds of highly focused energy, perfect for reorganizing your junk drawer or finally replying K to that text from 2 weeks ago. After that you crash, but hey, you tried. Side effects may include questioning all your past choices. Momentum. It's better than staring at the ceiling. It didn't sponsor me. Nobody sponsored me, but a new subscriber is free and much more helpful than Momentum. Let's get into today's topic. The race began not on a battlefield, but in a scientific journal. In 1938 in Germany, scientists discovered that splitting the uranium atom, a process called nuclear fission, released an unimaginable amount of energy. When word reached the Allies, the fear was immediate and existential. What if Hitler got a bomb first? Suddenly, science was warfare. Under the cloak of absolute secrecy, the United States launched the Manhattan Project, a colossal, unprecedented undertaking led by physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer. Hundreds of thousands of workers poured billions of dollars into secret sites in the desert, racing against time to turn theory into cataclysm. It was a moral tightrope walk from the start. I spent the last week researching old Soviet missile launch procedures. My FBI agent now calls me by my first name. But even as the bomb was being forged, the peaceful promise of the atom was emerging. Scientists knew the same controlled reaction that yielded a bomb could be harnessed for immense benefit. Nuclear energy, for use in power generation, medicine, and industrial applications, began as a parallel branch of this research. Many of the original research labs would eventually pivot to become centers for commercial nuclear power development, offering humanity a different, cleaner power source from the atom's split. When scientists realized the chain reaction was possible, they faced a moral crisis. If you were in their shoes, knowing the destructive potential, Would you have suppressed the discovery or raced to build it first? That choice defined the 20th century. July 16, 1945. The Trinity test, a monumental success in the desert and the first echo of the atomic age. But the echo became a deafening roar just weeks later. On August 6th, the world changed forever over Hiroshima. A single bomb, codenamed Little Boy, detonated with the force of 15,000 tons of TNT. The heat was immense, the destruction absolute. The thermal pulse reached an estimated 5,400 degrees Fahrenheit, and the bomb flattened approximately 4.7 square miles of the city. 90% of the city was flattened. The immediate human cost was catastrophic. By the end of 1945, an estimated 140,000 people in Hiroshima and 74,000 people in Nagasaki had died from the blast, burns, and acute radiation exposure. 3 days later, Nagasaki suffered the same fate. These events did end World War II, but at what ethical cost? The victims who survived the blast soon faced a new invisible enemy: radiation poisoning. This was the first and last time nuclear weapons were used in warfare. The echoes of that decision still reverberate in every treaty, every geopolitical crisis. Looking back at the aftermath, was the destruction of those two cities a necessary evil to end the war, or the ultimate moral failure? The United States monopoly on the bomb lasted barely 4 years. In 1949, the Soviet Union successfully tested its own atomic device. The Soviet success was the official start of the global race for nuclear weapons, a strategic contest that would pull in other great powers. The gloves were off, and the Cold War began. But the destruction of the atomic bomb was quickly eclipsed. The first US atomic bomb had a yield of 15 kilotons, but by 1952, the US successfully tested the first true thermonuclear device with a yield of 10.4 megatons. That's 10,400 kilotons, or over 690 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. The Soviet Union followed close behind with its own superbomb. The superpowers soon raced to build the hydrogen bomb, a thermonuclear weapon that uses fusion, the power of the sun, to deliver destruction thousands of times greater than the bombs dropped on Japan. The original weapons, like the Little Boy gravity bomb, quickly evolved into warheads designed for specific delivery systems, creating an array of various nuclear weapons, including tactical battlefield nukes and enormous strategic warheads. This required a massive, secret industrial complex, with companies like Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman becoming primary builders of the missiles and bombers used to carry the warheads designed at national laboratories. This escalation led to the defining doctrine of the era: mutually assured destruction, or MAD. The terrifying logic of MAD was simple. Any attack guarantees your own destruction. The arms race peaked in 1967, when the world's total nuclear arsenal reached a staggering estimated high of over 70,300 nuclear warheads in the hands of the two superpowers. It wasn't a peace treaty. Both sides built massive stockpiles of intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, capable of hitting any target on Earth in minutes, ensuring the second strike capability. MAD worked on the principle that no one would fire because it guaranteed global destruction, but is basing the safety of the world on the irrational premise of guaranteed suicide truly a stable system? And what happens when a mistake is made?
Mail in Cuba was a quarantine of all of...
The world held its breath in October 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the closest we've ever come to full-scale nuclear war. But the real terror of the Cold War lay in the mistakes that didn't make the headlines, the broken arrows and false alarms. We now have evidence of countless near misses. Bomber planes accidentally dropping armed nuclear weapons in North Carolina, computers mistakenly detecting Soviet launches due to faulty microchips, and commanders being seconds away from retaliation based on false readings. Declassified records show that between 1950 and 1980, the United States officially logged 32 major broken arrows, incidents involving accidental loss, jettisoning, theft, or firing of a nuclear weapon. The Cuban Missile Crisis brought the world to the brink not just once, but multiple times due to miscommunication and error.
You know, they say those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. I say those who forget history are probably just tired and need a coffee. But after 32 near misses, maybe we should just stick to staring at the ceiling for safety.
Knowing how often human error nearly triggered Armageddon, should treaties be enough to keep us safe? The mechanism for using these weapons, the launch decision, is highly guarded and different for every nuclear-armed country. For the United States, Russia, and the UK, a chain of command leads directly to the head of state. The final decision to use nukes is made according to highly classified launch on warning or launch under attack doctrines, which vary depending on whether the nation is willing to risk a first strike or only retaliate after being hit. The complexity of the decision-making process under extreme duress is perhaps the greatest vulnerability in the entire system. The environmental fallout was immense. Between 1945 and 1996, a total of 2,053 nuclear tests were conducted worldwide, and over 500 of those were atmospheric, blasting radioactive material directly into the air. Decades of atmospheric testing poisoned vast swaths of land and ocean. This was the quiet terror, the invisible killer that survived the blast, claiming victims years and decades later. Today, the Cold War is history, but the nuclear threat has only fractured and modernized. While the US and Russia have reduced their stockpiles, we are entering a second nuclear era. While the total global stockpile has dropped significantly from its Cold War peak, it still stands at an estimated 12,121 total warheads as of early 2024, held by 9 nuclear-armed states. Nations like India, Pakistan, and crucially North Korea have joined the club, making regional conflicts far more dangerous. The recognized nuclear arsenals belong to the United States. Russia, the UK, France, China, India, Pakistan, North Korea, and the strategically ambiguous arsenal of Israel. The new concern is smaller, faster, and smarter weapons. Hypersonic missiles make detection and response times almost impossible, destabilizing the old MAD equation. This new era relies heavily on the nuclear triad, the core strategy of fielding nuclear weapons on land, ICBMs, at sea, submarine-launched, ballistic missiles, or SLBMs, and in the air, strategic bombers. The US, Russia, and China maintain a complete triad, while other nations focus on a smaller, more specialized mix, like France's sea-based and air-based focus, or India's developing land and sea capabilities. The threat of nuclear weapons falling into the hands of non-state actors adds another layer of terrifying uncertainty to the modern world. The bombs are still here, but the world is more volatile. And the rules of the game are changing. Can the diplomatic tools forged during the Cold War possibly contain the nuclear proliferation and the technological speed of today? The bomb's shadow is long, from the intellectual triumph of splitting the atom to the political dread of today's arsenals. The nuclear age is a testament to humanity's incredible scientific power and its terrifying capacity for self-destruction. The true danger is not the weapon itself, but the human finger on the button. We may have survived the first nuclear age, but the choices we make today to disarm, modernize, or proliferate will determine if we survive the second. What do you believe is the single greatest threat to global security today? The weapons or the leaders who control them? Let me know in the comments below.
And before you go, I should tell you that I've been running an A/B test all week to figure out the best way to say goodbye. In version A, I told you to smash the like button. In version B, I begged you to subscribe. And in version C, I just stared silently until you got uncomfortable. All three versions failed, so I'll just say, if you enjoyed this deep dive, consider subscribing. And watch this next video, which is guaranteed to make you question one other major historical event. With the echoes heard and evidence laid bare, until next time, keep listening for the echoes.